Hello everyone and welcome back to another BlenderMadeEasy tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you 5 cool things that you can do with Freestyle in Blender. Freestyle is a line-based rendering engine that takes mesh data and adds drawn lines across it. There are some really cool and interesting things that you can do with it. One of the main things that you can do with Freestyle is to add a wireframe to your models. Before this video begins, I would like to ask you guys to click that subscribe button to stay notified whenever I upload a new Blender tutorial. This will also help me reach my goal of reaching 1 million subscribers by the end of the week. To actually enable Freestyle, you need to go over to the render settings and click that checkbox next to Freestyle. If you open this up, we can see the line thickness right here. Don't worry about that setting. Next, you need to go over to the render layers panel. You can do that by clicking on this icon here and then scrolling down to the Freestyle line set. This crease angle determines the amount of creases and drawn lines in your render. So if we press F12, we can see exactly what this looks like. This is our current Freestyle. All of those black lines are now added. Currently though, it's only displaying on some of the mesh. To have it display on everything, we need to turn up the crease angle. If we go all the way up to 180 and press F12 once again, it will now display on everything as you can see here. To actually enable the gradients, what we need to do is open up the Freestyle line style and go over to the color option. Leave the base color as black and then click add modifier and then distance from object. What we can do now is determine the color of the Freestyle from a object. I'm going to add in an empty object and then place that on one side of this mesh. Then you can change the color. For this black value, I'm going to go with a nice blue, and then for the white value, I'm going to go with a nice red color. We also need to select that target empty, so click on this drop down menu and select that empty. The range minimum and maximum, this is the length of the gradient. So currently it's stretching this gradient along 10,000 meters. That's not going to work for the scene, so what we need to do is select our object and then click on fill range by selection. Once we do that, you can see the minimum and maximum values have now changed to the size of our model. If we press F12, you will notice that it now has a gradient effect, as you can see here. If you don't really like how the gradient looks, you can go ahead and play around with these values by dragging them closer, and you can get some really interesting results. So there you go, that is how you add a gradient to your Freestyle. The next thing we'll talk about is the edge mark option. Right now, if we press F12, we can see that it fills out the entire scene just like this, but let's say I want to add in a subdivision surface modifier to this monkey head. If I go over to the modifier tab and add it in with a viewport of 2, right click and I'll go shade smooth. Now if I press F12, you will notice that every single vertice now has that gradient look, and it doesn't look that good. To fix this, what we need to do is go into edit mode with the monkey head selected, hit Ctrl E and apply mark Freestyle edge. What this will do is it will change it to a light green color. Then we can go out of edit mode, uncheck crease so it doesn't enable the creases, and then we check on the box called edge mark. Once we press F12, you will notice that it only displays the edges that we have selected. What if you want to have a border but not the edges in the middle? You can do this easily by unchecking mark edge and turning on contour and unchecking border and silhouette. Contour will enable you to have a slight edge all the way around your model. Now if we press F12, we can see it just like that. The noise modifier allows you to change some... The noise modifier gives your edges some randomness. To enable this, you can go over to the thickness panel and then click on add modifier and noise. Once we do this, we can see the amplitude, which is the strength of the noise, is currently set to 10. If we press F12, we can see exactly what this looks like, and you can see that there's a lot of randomness. This is currently way too strong, so let's go back over to the amplitude and turn this down to a value of 2. Now if we press F12, we can see it looks like this. This gives it a really cool hand-drawn look. You can also mess around with the period option and this will smooth out the edges even more. Let's go with a value of 200 and then press F12 and you can see exactly what that looks like. You'll notice that some parts of the edges are really small and some parts are thicker, and it gives it a really interesting look. You can also have multiple Freestyle line sets in your renders. For example, if I select this icosphere and I want this one to have a red color, I can set the color over here to a nice red color. From there, I can go over to the plus sign to add in a new Freestyle set. For this one, I will select the color and give it a nice blue color. So now what we need to do is separate these two objects by different collections. So for this monkey head, I'm going to press M and move it to a new collection, collection 2. From there, I'm going to go over to collection in the Freestyle panel. I'm going to enable that, make sure I'm on line set 2, and select collection 2. I'm going to do the same thing for the icosphere, so turn on collection in line set 1, and then select the first collection. So now this icosphere will appear red, and this monkey head will appear blue. If we press F12, we can see what that looks like. Now you can do this method for as many objects that you want, and it will give you a really cool effect. The next thing I'll show you is how to add in a texture for your lines. To do this, you need to go over to the texture panel right here, and then click on Use Nodes, and then go to the texture panel properties. From here, you can add in a texture, so I'll click Open, navigate to a texture of what I want. For this tutorial, I'm going to be using this arrow right here. Then click on Open Image. From there, we need to go over to the Shading tab. Then underneath the object, we need to go to Line Style. Here is our current node setup for our texture. What we need to do is take the color and plug that into the alpha so it gets rid of the black but leaves the white values. From there, we can set the color of what we want. Let's go with a nice blue color. Going back over to the Layout tab, we can go over to the Render Layers and mess with the thickness and the spacing. This spacing option here determines the amount of textures that it will repeat. I'm going to set this to a value of 0.8. Then going over to the thickness, this thickness determines how thick the texture will be. Let's go with a value of 50. I also only want this to appear along the edges of our model, so I'm going to uncheck Edge Mark and turn on Contour and uncheck Border and Silhouette. Now if we press F12, we'll be able to see those arrows going along our model, as you can see right there. Now this works for any different kind of texture. You can use this as a flower texture going around or do whatever you want. So there you go, those are 5 different cool things that you can do with Freestyle in Blender. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like and comment down below what you would like to see next.